All right, I think that catches me up. I don't see anything new coming in. So welcome, all of you. I'm glad you're here. Good morning, Jim. Apparently, Jim said he was having issues logging in. Good morning, Mike. All right. Very good. Okay. If you are a registrant and you want me to address you by name, you might have to put your name in the comment when you make it so that I can recognize you. Not sure why that comes up like that. We've had that kind of randomly happen to other people. And so you're the lucky ones today. You get to be the registrant for the day. All right. Hello, James and Max. Good to see you, Max. And by the way, Mike, I have enjoyed your videos. Mike does little videos every once in a while about his favorite hobby. And so I pay attention to those things. I pay attention to what y'all are doing. And so I try to kind of do that whenever I get a chance and then let you know that I have seen that. Okay, let's get started. What we're going to do first is, let me move this off my screen so I can see, is we're going to jump into the background tool. If anybody else jumps in, thank you for joining me. I appreciate you coming in. I'm going to focus my attention on this brief little agenda that we have here. Hey, Art, I don't know if I recognized you or not, but you'll always pop in. Let's get started. I want to talk about a couple of really cool features that happen with the background tool. We briefly mentioned them last week, and I told you we'd put a little more focus on it today. And so the little shadow tool that you saw me just barely crack open last week, we're going to take a deep dive with that today because it does the one thing that people have been asking for. It does it in a slightly limited fashion, but it does the one thing that people have asked for, and that is to be able to create this thin outline around the outside of somebody's image. So you can see this is without, this is with. The other thing that you can do, and we'll play with this just a little bit, is you can enhance the image. You can make a little bit of enhancements to the image itself inside of that background tool. With the change to HTML5, lots of tools have changed, and this is one of those that has changed and added some really cool features that were not possible in the past. And so you're going to see some upgrade on some other things across the internet as we go. But this is one of those things that people have asked for a lot. It was trending for a long time. We couldn't do it. Now with the background removal tool, we can do that one thing that everybody's been asking for. The issue that we have is the limitation is it comes in a single color, and that single color happens to be this dark one. We're going to actually test it on multiple backgrounds later on, and you'll see what we can do with that, okay? Hey, Kathy. All right, the next thing is this. You can crop. So this is the background tool. You can actually use the background tool to crop part of your image. And so I cropped a chunk of my image here, and you can also create a reflection with it. And I've left this little line right across here so you can see that this was the original image. This was the reflection. Can somebody let Steve know in the chat that he needs to refresh his tool? He needs to refresh his browser and make sure that his browser has refreshed using F5. Somebody take care of that for me if you would, please. He's saying that he's not getting an audio, so it won't do any good for me to try to tell him what's going on. Okay. Thank you. Appreciate you doing that. Maybe that'll help Steve get connected here. But cool things that you can do with this background tool that we couldn't do before. How many of you think it's really cool that you can use the background tool to crop your original image in the background that you now put in without having to save that? I think that's pretty cool. So you need to be cheering in the background. This would be, I'm trying to pretend that you're cheering and making that look really cool. And then this little reflection tool, we've talked about reflections before, and I've given you some instruction on how to create a reflection. This just got a ton easier than it has been in the past. by using the tools, and I'll show you what they are when we get inside of the is in the canvas and Youzign in just a little bit. But I think this is really going to be an awesome upgrade. You're going to love the capabilities of what you can do with this background tool as you learn to master that. Remember, there will be some limitations, like this limitation here. This only comes in one color. It's only that dark color. So you'll have to think about your backgrounds and how you want to use that in order to make it work most effectively. But that's going to be a great enhancement going forward. We're going to play with that shadow tool quite a little bit today. Thank you, Dawn. All right, I want to talk about something that's really, really important, and it will be helpful to you. And then I want to give you a caveat with it, okay? The next thing is, I always call this close the loop communication. If you post something in the group and you get asked, like in this case, there's been an ask here, always make sure you follow up with the ask. Always, always, always follow that up and close that loop of communication. If all you do is dog and dash, and that is you say something doesn't work and then we never see or hear from you again, and we can't help you resolve the issue, that doesn't help anybody. It doesn't help anyone. So always practice what I call close the loop communication. And even if it's something as simple as that worked or that didn't, then I'll be in touch with you or something, so that you let people know where the status is. When you post something, and we're very, very fortunate. So I don't want anyone to take advantage of this, but I want you to understand something, is that this is the man who's working on the project behind the scenes. All right, this is the man who's working on the project behind the scenes, and he's asked for some help to be able to resolve that person's issue. It is imperative that they respond back, because otherwise he's wasted precious development time trying to resolve an issue for one person. So make sure that you do that. Are y'all listening? Do you hear what it is that I'm saying here? Do you see how important that is? Thank you, Paul. I didn't realize you were here, but don't put pressure. Don't tag him in your. If this gets up to Paul, he will address the issue. And if he gives you instruction, make sure you follow it. Always close the loop. Don't be guilty of what I've always referred to as dog and dash. Say something negative and then disappear. If you post it doesn't work and then we never see or hear from you again, what have you done to anybody? Nothing. You haven't helped yourself, you haven't helped the platform, you haven't helped the program, and you haven't helped the people that are in the group. So close the loop. Always do that. Always close the loop. Okay? That helps you to be part of the solution and not just part of the problem. And remember this, Youzign is a huge platform. There are literally thousands, that's why I use dog and dash, Joy. There are literally thousands of people using programs. So if it's not working for you, we need to find out what is going on your system. It's not the entire system. Somebody said it's not working for me, it's not working for somebody else, therefore it's broke. It worked fine for me. So we have to be able to replicate the issues. And if we can't replicate the issue, then we have to work directly with you. All right, enough of that. We talk about that a lot. It's really important. I want to help you to help us to be part of, we want to solve your problem. We don't want people to have problems. We want to solve those problems. And so help us to be part of the solution by not be part of the problem. If your images say they're awaiting HTML5 conversion, guess what? They're waiting the HTML5 conversion. Those images have to be converted so that they can be handled by HTML5 and not with the old SWF, which was the Flash program. Now, the other thing I want to address this morning, and I'm going to divide this up into two sections. The trending designs in 2021. There's a little video here. We go through this every January, and it's this guy. Let me get back over here to the very beginning, and you'll see it's this guy right here. We've been following him for several years now, and every year at the end of December, he does a trending for the coming year. The guy's a genius. He does a great job of being able to take a look at what the what seems to be trending. Doesn't mean that it's not a crystal ball. We can't promise that this is exactly what's going to happen. But he always has 14. He always has 14 trends in graphic design for the coming year. Some of those are really fascinating, and it's possible for us to be able to address those and use many of them inside of Youzign. And so I'm going to show you how to do that. I'm just going to introduce them to you today, and then I'm going to show you how to do that as we go down the road, okay? Yeah, this is always fun for me. I told my wife this morning, this is one of the really, really fun things that I do, and that is I take a look at this trending video. Now, I'm only going to give you, I think there's 7 or 8 that I've got instead of all of them. And but this is one of my favorite things to do, and that is to take a look at what he says are going to be trending and how can we incorporate that into into our design, into our ideas, into the things that we can put in front of our customers and our clients, so that it will help us to be a reflection of things that are happening. Okay. Can I put the link in the chat? Yes, I can do that. I'm sorry, I really meant to do that. So let me get that popped in the chat here, because this is really, it's we do this every year, and it's kind of fun. So let me run through the ones that I have identified. Some of these are pretty bizarre, and they have a little bit to do with architectural design, that kind of a thing. So I'm not going to go down that path, but I'm going to take out the things that are going to be the easiest for us to do using Youzign, and things that will be most beneficial to us going forward. And the first one is what he's referring to as environmental. And I like this. I really do. And we'll talk about this one probably when we get to the canvas. I'm going to show you the background tool first. But this is the random use of numbers and letters added to an environment. And this is trending. I started seeing this several months ago myself, and I thought this is pretty cool, and I really kind of like it. And and I'll show you how we can start to incorporate some of these things into our designs. And one of the things that will help us is this background tool and a few other things. So that will be helpful as well. Okay, so that will be one of the things that will, and we're going to address all of the ones that are in this list. We may not get to very many of them today, because I really want to focus on the features in the background tool, and some of it it's going to require me a little bit of preparation time for this, and so I will probably devote more preparation time as we begin to lessen the responsibility with other things. The next one is figure isolation. This is where the background tool, again, it's the reason why using the background tool becomes so important. This is just a figure in isolation. I love this. I started doing this with random pictures of my grandson, and that is just hanging them in space. And you see that this isn't walking on a path. This that has been posted numerous times in the group. That roadmap is updated. I shouldn't say frequently. It's updated as often as we can get to it. And then I also give you I address some of those issues as we go. And Rose is not on right now, so she's hopefully getting a good night's sleep because it's late for her. But this just dropping a random image inside of places is really cool. The opportunity to be able to quickly and easily remove the background, add some features to it, tweak it, reduce the opacity, those kinds of things are going to make this figure in isolation become very, very important in our design going forward. And I'm going to show you several things with that over the next few months of how we can use that figures in isolation. The next two are really cool, and I'm going to show you something. I've created a tool for each one of those. And the first one is redline. And this redline feature is kind of cool. This is a new trend that I'm seeing. I'm seeing red in everything. And some of you remember my conversation about red from several months ago, how that I worked with a designer one time who refused to use the color red. And now it is a trending color in design. And so we'll talk about how you can actually, like, for example, this right here, this is a classic example of a combination of the background tool and the use of a color image. And so I posted an image like that with a Rubik's Cube in the Youzign group earlier I think it was last week after we got finished with the webinar. Took that little Rubik's Cube and I showed you how to create an image that looked like this. And so this red's going to become really important as we move down the road. Red and black are wildly trending right now. Very difficult sometimes to read red letters on a black background, but black letters on a red background work fairly well. This is what I'm talking about right here, where you see where it says comedy scattered across the back of this. That's black letters on a red background. This is black letters on a red background. Fairly easy to read those. So just keep that in mind. This is going to be a trending thing, and I'm already seeing a lot of it, and I think you'll find it quite fascinating and something that you'll want to start to incorporate in your design. We talked about this one a few weeks ago. And this is the gentleman who does this video calls this Be Yellow, and yellow is that wildly trending color right now. I don't know. He speculates that it's because in the midst of the mess, it kind of projects a color of hope, and I totally agree with that. And yellow is one of those colors that does project hope, and so I think that's pretty awesome. And I'll show you two tools I created here in just a second using colors to help us with this Be Yellow and this red line, because both of those are things you're going to want to incorporate into your stuff, okay? Mike, you always have an interesting twist. He said, my grade school teacher told us not to use red because it identified with death. I always thought that was odd, but she was like 100 years old, so I had to respect her viewpoint. Yeah, I think that's kind of the reason why my graphics person refused to use red as well. But guess what? Definitions change as well. Today, the word irregardless is a word. I didn't think that would ever become a word, and it makes an English teacher's hair catch on fire. But it's now in the dictionary. So, all right, what I did was I took both of those. I took these two screenshots. All right, I took these two screenshots from the video, and I dropped them into colors right here. And I created a palette like this. And I dropped that palette inside of Youzign, so I'll have those colors forever. The other thing that I'll have is I'll have them here, so if I want to tweak and tune one of these, for example, these two have these are different colors right here, and they're both red, but they're different shades of red, and they look different on various backgrounds. So this is something that you want to be able to do. And then taking this little, when the color picker becomes available, so then I can use the color picker to match that color. That's exactly right. But I saved it, and I'll show you this when we get to the design. The number right here, which you can't easily see in this particular shot, but you see it right here. This number I can use inside of Youzign to replicate the exact color. So I've got two different ways to do that. I can do it with the color picker. The color picker right now is disabled. It's one of the things that will be enabled in a future push, which is coming, I think, fairly soon. Paul may be able to address that. But that's going to enable me to be able to use that once I'm inside of Youzign, and I can use the color picker to pick the colors. But I can also take this number right here and use it as well. Okay. All right, does that make sense to everybody? Do you understand what I'm talking about here about using this color palette and making that color palette available inside of Youzign so that I have the ability to be able to recall those exact colors, and then I can take the number from here and I can put it in the color picker, and I can replicate the exact color again. Okay, so that was I just, these two were so wildly popular, and I see them trending everywhere, that I thought it would be really cool if we just stopped, made a color palette, dropped both of those in there, and then we took and just let you know that. So that was, if I get to that portion, then we'll get down to here and we'll stop. The next one is, this was kind of cool. This is called the sliver of light. And this has been kind of a trending thing for a little bit, but I really like the way this looks now. I think this is pretty awesome. And so we'll be working on creating some other things with this, and I'll show you how to use, and you can, again, this is one of those things that you can use the background removal tool for. I could have taken this street right here, removed the background, flipped the image upside down, put a different color background in the back of it so that it looks like this light, and then would have had that. So I just uploaded it as an image. When I create this color palette right here, the question was, how did you put that into Youzign? I create this as a color palette and download it as a ping file, and then I upload the ping file into Youzign. You'll see it when I open up the Youzign canvas in just a minute. So that was Sliver of Light. That's kind of cool. I'll show you how to use that later on. This is another one. This is called Architext. And the Architext is kind of trending using text in an architectural fashion. I'll show you one of the things that's going to help, again, and I say this over and over and over again, is that just the use of this background removal tool is going to really help to be able to create some of these designs that you see here. The text is important, but in many cases, the text is not readable. And so so the text becomes part of the design, not part of the message. Does that make sense? Do you understand what I say when I say it becomes part of the design, not part of the message? Actually using text as a design. That's kind of a cool concept called Architext. The next one he calls this one Bright Geo. Bright Geo is simply random objects used as icons with multiple colors in them. And if you look across here, you'll see these are pretty popular, and you've all seen these in the past. Google right here, and Google's calendar right here, and so on. So you're starting to see a trend toward these bigger, bolder, fatter, going from this to this, going from this to this, more color in that, and so on. And so we'll talk about how you can modify those colors to some of the icons that we have, and what you can do with that going forward at another day. We'll not do that today, but that is a trend, and we always want to try to figure out how we can incorporate some of those trends into the designs that we create using Youzign. Make sense to everybody? This one we've played with a little bit in the past, and we'll probably do it more, and because it's becoming trending, and that is, it's all a blur. And so with our special effects tool, we can create that blur effect, and we can make that so that it's pretty awesome looking with what we have. And we're going to incorporate, okay, bonus today for whoever can tell me the tools that are required to create the it's all a blur. What do you have to have in order to create It's All a Blur? There's basically three things. Look at this one right here and tell me, what three things do we have that create this blur? Yes, thank you, Art. You have to have an image first. You use the blur tool, you create the element that's here, you use the blur tool, and then you reduce the opacity. Forget it. The admin, if that's what you're going to do, then you will not be, I've just asked you to, we're not going to do that. And literally what we're doing is with the overlay, we're reducing the opacity, which is basically the same thing as an overlay opacity brush, okay? And this is being done in lots of cool ways. Many of these we can do. Shape and transparency, that's it. Many of these things we can do inside of Youzign without any issue whatsoever. This don't quit's really easy. This one's really easy. This one's a little harder because but if you have the object already, if you have the image already in the background, not a problem. You can do that. So there's a lot of these that are really fairly easy to do. Okay, and we'll be teaching you how to do that in the very near future. The next one's this one called Singularity. And Singularity is much more complicated to try to do inside of Youzign, but it's basically using a single letter, or in this case, a grammatical symbol to be the image itself, which is kind of cool. I thought this was really fascinating. The numbers on the bottles here was totally fascinating to me. And so some of these things are what's trending. So those are the things that I extracted from the video that I've given you the link to here. And you can take that video, go through that, watch it, listen to it carefully. You can do exactly what I did over here. And that is I took this image and I created this palette with it inside of this little tool called Coolors.co. And that is, we use that a lot. We talk about that a lot inside of this webinar. And you can take that image as a screenshot from right here and drop it in there and return this little color palette, or this color palette when it was the red line. And you can then drop those into Youzign and have it function from there. Okay. All right. Any questions about that? Thank you, Dawn. I'll give you a moment to respond here. No, actually that program, I don't know, I don't have anything but an Apple. Byron's asking the question, is that Colors program just for Apple? And no, it's not. It's literally all it is it is a way to create these color palettes. And all you do is, I took this and I'll show you how I did it. Pick a palette from a photo. And I'm going to drop that red line photo that I took, which was a screenshot. Well, let me take the B yellow because it's easier for me to see. And now I just simply move my color picker to there and then add it to the palette. Pretty simple. Okay, so this is the Colors program. Great tool, and it is a browser-based program, so it's available to everyone, and it's really easy to use. We talk about it. We actually explore it probably once a month in this webinar. All right, let's go over to the Youzign canvas, and we'll take a look at this using this background tool. Okay. Now, this is the image. I took the image, I just grabbed a random image from the integrations. Right over here, I just asked for people and I grabbed a random integration. It's this one right here. This was my original image. And I took it to the erase background tool. It will be, just be cool. So Now, this automatically, with artificial intelligence, keep that in mind, this is done with an artificial intelligence. It anticipates what you want to remove and what you want to save. So it has already removed what I would have removed from this image. Incredibly fast, incredibly easy to do. Now, the way I created the shadow around the outside of it is, if you'll notice down here at the bottom, where it says shadows, I click that shadows tool and it pulls up the image with the background erased from it. So from this image, I can do several things. I can crop this image. So I can make it much tighter, like that. And now I've cropped the image. I'm going to save that. Now I'm going to open this image up with my shadows tool. All right, y'all with me? I'm going to select drop shadow and I get that effect. Now it's drop shadow and it's offset 30 degrees in 2 directions. Okay. That's the first thing I want you to notice. So I'm going to, you see this little selection tool right here where it says offset, this little selection tool right here. What I'm going to do with that selection tool is I'm going to pick the middle. Now I've moved that offset so that it goes around the entire image. Everybody following me? Move this over just a little bit so I can see your comments. All right. Now, this is where it gets interesting. I want to make the opacity of that as dark as I can. So I turned it to 100%. The blur radius is talking about how far around the outside of this image this is. Now, the further out that it becomes, the less effective it's going to be. So what I want to do is I want to take that and I want to start moving it in so it's a little bit tighter, like that. Now that gives me the effect that I was looking for. Everybody see how I did that? So now if I save that, and I've used the drop shadow, I didn't use reflection and I didn't use cast shadow. We'll talk about reflection next. But if I save this now and select OK, I've now got that shadow preserved with this image. This is probably a little darker or a little bit wider than I would normally use, but I'm doing that wider. I always take things to a slight extreme so that they're easier for you to see when we get through the whole webinar process, okay? Now, I select done. Now I want to put this over here. See the difference between this and this? Now, I have to ask you a question. All right, take a careful look at these 2 images, this one and this one, the one on the left and the one on the right. There is a slight difference in the tone of, not the tone of the skin, but the tone of the light that's on the skin. Do you see that? We cannot change the color of the shadow. We're limited to one color. Yes, it seems to be a little more distinct on the image on the right and a little softer on the image on the left. So what I'm going to do is show you one more feature inside this erase tool. And again, I'm just pulling the same image back up now. And I'm going to deal with this image, and I'm going to go to the shadow tool. I'll do the drop shadow, and I'll mimic the exact same thing that we've done before. So you get a chance to see the process all over again. I reduce that to 9. Make sure that it goes to the center. If you do it, Paul, you're exactly right. I was going to show that in a minute. If you do it with the with the effects inside of Youzign with the special effects tool, you need to duplicate the image. I'm going to show you how to do that in just a second. Okay. Now, do you see what we got? We have this, but let's take a look over here. I can click on the colors button, and I can increase or decrease the brightness. I'm not sure you can see that, but I can increase and decrease the brightness. I can change the highlights. I'm not sure how well you're able to see that, but I have the ability to be able to make those alterations here. All right. Same thing with the saturation of the color and so on. All right. See that? All right. We're going to get out of that. Let's leave that go. Now, we're going to address what Paul just said, because I want to show you this image right here. I can take this image and I can add this special effect tool here, and I can change the color of that to white. All right. I'll make my opacity very bright. We're back over here. Make my distance like this. I'm going to change the background. Hold on a second. I think I need to change the background color so it's easier for you to see. All right, you see this, but we don't have it on the other side. We have it on one side, we don't have it on the other side. The reason why we don't have it on the other side is because if I try to do the center, can I do it from the center? My distance out, it still ends up just going one direction because it's a shadow. All right, so I can do that. We'll do it this way. Pull this out, and I'll save that. All right. Now I'm going to duplicate this. Line these up so that they're perfectly aligned. And now I'm going to use the special effects tool, and I'm going to change the direction of the shadow. And now I've got it going both directions. Does that make sense to everybody? And when I change the color of the background, you see the dark color here and the light color here. You can't tell the difference in the image, even though they're overlaid on top of each other. All right, that makes sense to everybody. So that's a way you can add the shadow here. You can do it one of two ways. You can do it inside of the background removal tool, or you can do it by simply overlaying two images on top of each other. All right, any questions? The group tool has not been turned on yet, Paul, unless something's changed. If something's changed, Paul, can you tell me? I didn't think the group tool had been turned on. Now, as of right now, there's not really a compelling reason to do anything with the group tool for this project right here. Put these two images together. Okay, thank you. That's what I thought the status was as of right now. How do you get to the shadow in the background removal tools right here? When I turn on shadows and use the drop shadow. And in order to do that, I've got to put it in the center and then increase the opacity and decrease the blur radius. And I get it. All right, any other questions about that functionality? Yeah, Melody, thank you. There is, when you do this, there is down in the bottom of the toolbar, right down here. I didn't point that out. Right down here, you'll find all of those tools in the lower left-hand corner. You'll find the background tool. I can actually add a color background to this if I wanted to do that. I could get out of that. And I can change my brush size. We can now change the brush size down to 1 pixel. It used to be 5. We can now change it to 1 pixel. We can do it in micro increments by doing a pixel at a time by using the plus or minus key right here. You can also add the shadows here. You also have the ability to crop, which we did earlier. That crop tool is right here. And I'll show you that, why that's important in just a little bit, okay? All right, any other questions? I think you're going to love the improvements that have been made to the background tool. Now, the next thing is what I did right here. And this is my original image. I want you to notice carefully what I do with this original image. I'm going to erase the background. And in this case, I don't want to erase the entire background. I don't want to have these two silhouette images. That's not the look that I'm going for. What I want to do instead is I'm going to use the scalpel tool. I'm going to cut this off right at the horizon level, okay? And then I'm going to use my green tool here and just do that. Now I have it like this. Everybody see that? You see how I did that? Now this is where it gets kind of interesting. I've got one more piece up here that didn't go away in the very corner. This is where it gets really interesting. What I can do now is use the crop tool. All right. And I'm going to crop this sun part out for the most part, like that. I'm going to crop this a little bit tighter. Now, the other thing I can do is I could add space to the bottom. You can add this transparent space to the bottom. And when I get it down here a little bit further, whoops, my mouse is stuck. I'm sorry. When I get it down here a little further, see my ball in the middle? That allows me to tell how close to the middle of this I am, because I want my reflection. I want this to be an exact size, okay? So now I'm going to hit OK. And notice I have this extra space down here at the bottom. Everybody see what I'm doing? Did you see what I did? I cropped the image tighter, and then I made it longer. I literally added space to the image. Here's the reason why that's important. I'm going to take this. I'm going to select shadows, and I'm going to do reflection. Now, do you see why I needed that additional space? I needed my image to be longer. The other thing you'll notice is that when I did my hacked the bottom half of my image off, I left it over here so you could see it. And I wanted you to see this. This is that line right there, all right? So when I hacked that off, I hacked it off and it wasn't perfectly straight across, okay? Because we're about to run out of time. I have my colors listed right here. See, I can see the numbers for those colors right here. So if I want to use this color, that's 818384. Come up here, my background, and I do this. 818384. And now I've made the color match the color that was on my color palette. That's where having this palette, these color palettes I had saved from those images that were trending, that's where that becomes really handy, because now I have that. In the future, we'll be able to save those colors and they'll show up when you select right here, okay? So we'll be able to save those as trending colors and you'll have that. And you can pick it from here rather than having to type in the number. All right, any questions before we wrap up, because we're almost finished? Nothing else? Now, I want you to notice a couple of things. There's been people talking about speed. I don't know how it comes any faster. They're talking about how slow things are. I can save this image, and that image now is ready to load. So yeah, can anybody drop that? How slow was that? You just saw me save that. I mean, I literally just saved that. You see down here at the bottom, it says saved. I don't know if you must have an issue. That's what we was talking about, issues earlier. Okay, somebody give Deborah the link to the group, would you please? Debbie's looking for thank you, Melody. Melody just posted that so you can have that. But I've run this thing through every single pace that you possibly can. Loading, how quickly it loads up to the background removal tool, all of those things. I don't see any issues whatsoever that people are talking about speed being a problem. It's just not a problem. Now, what I have discovered is that you can have an extension. You can have a a browser extension. You could have a bug in your browser. Whether people realize that that's possible or not, it is, and you can have those kinds of things that will cause you to have issues. And so we need to track that down. Paul said he tested it on a 15-year-old laptop and it seemed fine. You just saw how fast it saved for me. So whatever it's done in the past, just recognize what it's doing now and park it there. And Paul's repeating that. You may have settings that are not in the defaults, and you may not know it. And you may have malware. I worked for 3 weeks with somebody on a different program one time, and it was a malware. And we did everything. Like to never found the malware that was there. But always don't assume that the program's broken. Assume that there's something that you need to figure out between the way your system's operating and the way the program's operating for the other thousands of people that are using it. All right, anything else? Any other questions, comments? I put Tom, don't do that. I put a video in the group explaining exactly how to adjust the text going forward. It's the way HTML handles text images or text fonts. And so you want to make sure that you follow the instructions that are in that video. That's why I put the video in the group. And Larry's making a very important comment. Sometimes you'll discover that there are extensions that are interfering with your browser, and you're going to have to go through and block those extensions. I've had to do it. I have to do it frequently. There is nothing crippled about Youzign. There's a couple of features that haven't been turned on, but you're not going to continue to do that, or you're going to be invited to leave the group. I had something as simple as a measuring tool, and it was blocking weird stuff for everything that I tried to use that was SAS based. All right, everyone have a wonderful weekend. Thank you for joining us and spending your Friday with us. I look forward to seeing you next week. Okay.